And there was this, and I think, of course, because it was quarantine times, it was silent in there. The time, it was like you could hear a heartbeat in the air. And there was just this moment where Trinaldo stood over him and looked at Herb, and Jai's still on the floor, kind of not fully conscious, and Trinaldo just started cracking him with more shots. And that was the point where I stood up straight away, and I'm yelling, and Paul Felder was doing the same thing next to me. You actually see Herb look at me through the cage and point at me and tell me to shut up. The thing that annoyed me about it was the miscommunication about what had happened, because the message that got back to Dana and everybody at the top was that I left my commentary desk and went over and I was stood outside the cage, and I wasn't. Herb came to me. So like, I'm at my desk, we've got this piece of plexiglass because it's all COVID protocol, right?
Plexiglass.
That stopped everything, didn't it? And then we had another desk in front of that. So Herb's basically, and Herb's doesn't move very quickly most of the time. He's a big old boy, but he was moving at pace towards me. So I stood up, took my headset off and put them down, or had them in my hand. And he came over and he started yelling at me, and, you know, you stay out of it, can't be shouting and this and that. And that's where you see me go, that was 2 times. That's the second time of the night. After the, I mean, as it's going on, and this was when we're not doing interviews in the cage as well, right? So I'm standing up. Also hilarious, yeah.
Guys just breathing on each other, sweating and bleeding on each other.
And we're shaking hands in the hotel and everything, and it was kind of odd. But because I'm not going into the cage, I'm now turning around and my interview camera's behind me. So basically what the UFC wanted me to do when Herb's marching over to me was to stand up, turn my back on him and put my headset on. Me as a martial artist, I'm not going to turn my back on someone when they're moving at me with the kind of pace that he was. So I everything got a bit delayed because I was having an interaction with Herb. As soon as the event was over and I was on my way over to the ESPN desk, Herb and I bumped into each other, and we had just had a brief minute conversation. Everything was cool. I said, look, I respect you as a referee. You left that one too late, there was no doubt, and it was the second one the night. And there are other instances where it's happened, right? Nobody's perfect. I would make mistakes as well, of course.
Very difficult job.
Very, very difficult job. The thing that annoyed me, though, and for me, it was done then. When I got backstage, someone from the production team confronted me about approaching Herb. I tried to make sure that the narrative was set correctly, that he actually came over to me. But that never got escalated up the chain. So it was always, you know, you approach an official, et cetera, et cetera. And it just so happened to coincide with where someone had approached Mark Goddard and pushed him at another event, UAE Warriors. So the whole thing kind of got convoluted and bundled into the same thing.
Was that the Conor situation?
No, that was in Bellator, but there was another one. It was UAE Warriors. And I think someone had kept hold of a choke too long, and then Goddard had separated the fight, and then he came over to Mark and he's trying to push Mark and stuff. And when Dana actually made the statement about if you approach an official, you'll be gone, that was actually in reference to the other thing that happened, but it was linked in with me as well. The thing that pissed me off is when I got to back to the hotel or to the airport or whatever, Herb had posted this video, and he was like sitting at the airport, you know, trying to justify what had happened. But it was just like, if he was saying things like, if you think you're the smartest guy in the room, and just like poking at me, just constantly. And I'm like, I've got a bunch of hours sitting on a plane on the way back to the UK now. And you know what I'm like, I'm pulling this apart and I'm like, did I step out of line? Did I say something I shouldn't have said? And I'm assessing it. And then I'm going, no, hang on a minute. Like, my intention is to protect that fighter that needed protecting, right? His family are at home sitting watching that. They don't want to see him getting smashed in the face unnecessarily. They know the risks of the job already. So I kind of sat on the plane on the way home and I'm like, how am I going to deal with this? So I dealt with it the way that I would always do. I get all the facts on the table. I try and organize my response. And what I did was I created a video that I put up on YouTube, which the UFC actually contacted YouTube and had them delete off the back end.
Oh.
And it was about an hour and a quarter long. It was a decent chunk of information. But I went through what had happened on the night, other circumstances where Herb had maybe not pulled the trigger quick enough, or times when he'd been indecisive, like Cowboy Masvidal. Not sure whether you remember that one. Cowboy went down at the end of the first round, and they actually helped him back to his stool. and sat him on the stool, and Greg Jackson's going, "Hey, cowboy, you're okay, everything's fine." Then he went out and got TKO'd at the start of the second round. But if you remember that, Herb jumps in and waves the fight off at the end of the round, and then decides to restart it in the second. So I pointed out a bunch of things where he could have maybe done a better job. I also gave him the benefit of the doubt in like the Robbie Lawler-Ben Askren fight, where to me that wasn't stopped early. You could see Robbie Lawler's arm fall for a second. I think he went out for a split second in that moment.
And then came back.
Yeah.
And then complained about it.
So in that moment, and
Hard to tell.
Very hard to tell, but you can see Herb in that situation going, "Oh man, I'm sorry, I thought you were out." Like those things are going to happen. I would always rather the fighter be protected than just kind of leave it for the benefit of the doubt and just let him it's different with a submission, of course. But the point is, I was trying to create something that was quite balanced. And the other thing as well was, it was Fight Island. Like, we're getting tested every other day. Like, we're quarantined in our rooms sometimes. We were doing fights at weird hours of the day. So people were kind of foggy and fatigued. And it was just a weird environment. So I gave Herb and all the officials the benefit of the doubt that, you're not going to be at 100% at 4 o'clock in the morning. But it was the way they responded to me which pissed me off. And then the way that the UFC kind of pulled all their support for me, and they contacted me and they said, "Hey, we're going to organize a conversation with you and whoever," and I said, "I just want to let you know I've got this video ready to go, and I am going to post it because it vindicates what I did, in my opinion, but it also offers some understanding of what Herb was trying to do and the job that he has and how difficult it is." And unfortunately, it got a couple of 100,000 views before it was taken down. But it's just, it's still on the channel now. If you look at it, it's just a little grey square with 3 dots, and there's just nothing on the back of it. They literally went into my channel and took it away.
That's so weird that they could take down something that doesn't violate any laws or rules. That's kind of weird.
I don't know whether they contacted YouTube and said, "Hey, he's used some UFC footage." But did you? Yeah, I did. But at the time, I had permission to use UFC footage. They were allowing me to make war rooms and all kinds of stuff.
Right, because it only helps them.
That's it. I was an ambassador for Europe as well as being a commentator. So my job in my mind was to spread the word of MMA, right? I'm trying to educate everybody as much as I can. And I could make a lot more content through my channel than I could rely on the UFC to make content. So I was just trying to churn extra stuff out to keep drawing attention to it. So they'd given me permission to use footage on my channel. And I'd built a company off the back of this. I'd employed my Raptors. I think you remember meeting those guys. And all that was gone, And the thing is, it was like, I understand that the UFC are not going to fire me for shouting up to protect a fighter. But I knew on that day my card was marked, And I knew that my card was marked on that day because I was too stubborn. I didn't wait for the UFC